Good evening, children. Last time we had completed our third lesson, the living world. Today we are going to start with our fourth topic, Kingdom Monera, the prokaryotes. Before we start this chapter, it is important that I must give you a brief background about the biological classification systems, right? In this, we'll discuss about certain names and their kingdoms of classification introduced. First, let's talk about various scientists since the time of Aristotle, right? Aristotle, if you remember, I told you last time, he's the father of biology. So during his time, many scientists divided all living organisms into plants and animals, right? Then the year was 1758 when another scientist, Carolus Linnaeus, I'm sure you're familiar with this name, he divided living world into kingdom plantae and kingdom animalia. So plants and animals, they remained the same, but the word kingdom was added. So these two, they come under two kingdom classification. All right. Then came the year 1866 when two system changed into three kingdom classification system, and this was by Ernest Haeckel, year 1866. So what was the third new kingdom introduced? Kingdom Plantae and Animalia remained the same. The new kingdom was Kingdom Protista, and this was basically made for bacteria, algae, fungi and protozoa. Then the year was 1956 when three kingdom changed into four kingdom of classification by Copeland, and the living world, the previous three they were the same, that is Kingdom Plantae, Animalia and Protista, but this came as the new kingdom as Monera. Alright, so all the encircled ones in every system are the new ones introduced. Then the year 1969, that was a time of five kingdom classification introduced by Robert H. Whittaker, and the fifth new kingdom was Kingdom Fungi. The rest of the four, they were the same. You can see the Plantae, Animalia, Protista and Monera. They are the same, but fungi was in the new one introduced. And now at the time till date, we have six kingdom classification that was introduced by Carl Woese, and this was the year 1978 when the living world have six kingdoms. So the rest of the four, they are the same. You can see Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. But this one, Monera, has been further divided into two separate kingdoms, what we call as Kingdom Archaebacteria and Kingdom Eubacteria. Alright, so this is till the present. Now you can see how the transformations were done in the historical years. From two kingdom became three kingdom, four kingdom, five kingdom and finally six kingdom. Now you must be noticing that viruses are not mentioned anywhere, and this is what I have written here as a note. Viruses were left out because they are the ones on the borderline of living and non-living. If you remember, we have done this as our first topic right before the summer vacations. Alright, so this is a very brief fair idea about the background. Now we move further with our main topic about Kingdom Monera. Right? What is Kingdom Monera? This includes the prokaryotes. I'll remind you, the word prokaryote means, pro means before, right? And karyon means nucleus. So this means that before the well-developed nucleus was made, this is the group of organisms, and in this the most remarkable characteristic is scattered nuclear material. The nuclear membrane is missing, right? So all the members, they are unicellular, microscopic and prokaryotic. They form short chains or filaments. They lack definite nucleus and no nuclear membrane, right? Keep a bacterium is in your mind and then define these, right? They form chains. They do not have a well-defined nucleus. Cell wall is made up of peptidoglycans. This is a chemical, right, that makes the cell wall. Then they lack membrane bound cell organelles. There are many organelles that are absent. For example, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi, etc. Nutrition in them is heterotrophic or autotrophic by any means. The heterotrophic may be by saprophytic or parasitic methods. Saprophytic because they derive nutrition from dead materials, and here they are deriving it from a living host. Alright. Reproduction is asexual and it is by binary fission or budding. Both of the terms you are familiar. Then kingdom Monera is divided further into group Eubacteria and group Archaebacteria. Right, here you just now saw that kingdom Monera in the sixth kingdom classification was divided into Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. So what do they mean? Kingdom Eubacteria, this includes the cyanobacteria, or what we call as the blue-green algae, and the true bacteria. Alright. Then Archaebacteria, these are the ones that include organisms that were under extreme conditions of environment. For example, halophiles, thermoacidophiles, and the methanogens. If you remember last time we had discussed, right, the salt lovers, the hot heat and cold lovers, and this is how they survived in the this is how they survived producing methane gas. Methanogen means methane producers. Then finally, they were the most ancient forms of life. Now let us start with the study of bacteria. Bacteria, they are a very interesting group of organisms, right? Single we call bacterium and plural we call bacteria. The study of bacteria we call as bacteriology. There is a name, Antony von Leeuwenhoek, who named them as animalcules. Then another name, what we call Louis Pasteur, he gave the germ theory of disease. Ehrenberg, in 1829, he first used the term bacterium, and Robert Koch, he found that bacteria cause diseases like tuberculosis and cholera in man, and in cattle a disease called anthrax. Characteristics of bacteria, they are unicellular, prokaryotic. Prokaryotic, just now I told you what they mean, scattered nucleus, right? Then the cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan, also called as murine or mucopeptide. So you'll have to remember these terms, children. Peptidoglycan or murine or mucopeptide means the same thing. Food reserve is in the form of glycogen and fat globules. Alright. Then organized nucleus is absent, as we discussed. Instead, a nucleoid is present. That is, the nuclear material is kind of scattered, and a double-stranded DNA coil is present inside the cytoplasm. I'll show you the bacterial cell just now in your textbooks. This is at page number 2.10. This is a bacterial cell, typical bacterial cell. You can see the chromatin material kind of just scattered, and this is what you cannot call a true nucleus, but it is a nucleoid. Alright, then the other characteristics, we'll come one by one to it. Ribosomes are 70S type. S is a Swedberg unit, and 70 we'll say because there are two subunits. The larger one is 50S and the smaller is 30S. Mitochondria, ER, that is endoplasmic reticulum, chloroplast, Golgi complex, they are all absent. Alright. Nutrition is by any of these four ways. Photoautotrophic, that means imagine bacteria conducting a photoautotrophic nutrition is by special pigments, not chlorophyll but bacteriochlorophyll and chlorobium chlorophyll. They are instead of the typical chlorophyll that are found, so they are the modified ones. Then in the other category, the nutrition is chemoautotrophic, third saprotrophic, and fourth parasitic. Just now I am giving the introduction, children. Later we'll study in detail. So that's why we are going further. The multiplication in bacteria is by binary fission. We know it, children. One nucleus divides into two, and this is how we have two daughter cells. Sexual reproduction is absent, but gene combination occurs by conjugation. That also we'll discuss later in detail. Occurrence. Bacteria are found everywhere. You can imagine any place and bacteria is present. For example, soil, water, air, food, mouth, intestine, bodies of organisms, dead remains, etc. Shape and size, the length is 10 microns and the diameter is 0.2 to 1 micron, that is of the bacterial cell. Three very interesting bacterium: largest, longest and smallest. The largest is Beggiato mirabilis. The longest is Bacillus burchleyi and smallest is Dialister pneumocystis. Then, classification of bacteria based on their shapes. Let us see this, and in class 9th you have studied, if you remember children, there are 4 shapes of bacteria: coccus, the round ones or oval; bacillus, the rod shaped; spirillum or spirilla in plural means the coiled shape; and comma shaped as vibrio, right? So coccus, under this we have some many subheadings. When the bacteria are oval and they occur singly, we call them micrococcus. When bacterial oval shaped bacteria, they occur in pairs, we call diplococcus. Diplo means 2. When they occur in groups of 4s, we call tetracoccus. Strepto means chain-like and coccus means round. So we say streptococcus when the round bacteria form chains. Then staphylococcus. Coccus means round and staphylo means grape-like bunches. So this is what we have the shape as bacteria. And finally Sarcinae, which means cubical packets of 8 or 64. Coming to bacilli, that is rod shaped with or without flagella. Flagellum is a locomotory structure. It is something like this. You can see the flagella. So sometimes it may be present or it may be absent. So here we have rod shaped when occurs singly, we call bacillus. Then here we have diplobacillus when they occur in pairs, streptobacillus when they occur in chains, spirilla when they are coiled, example spirillum, and vibrio when they are comma shaped, motile, that means they can move because of flagellum at one end. For example, Vibrio cholerae. I'm sure you know this name, the causative agent of disease cholera. Alright, so that was a brief introduction of bacterial chapter here. I have given you first the background of classification today. Here, I'll be sending you these notes, children. You will please write down. Then I told you about characteristics of kingdom Monera in general. Just now this was all generalized. Then we started with a few things about bacteria, their introduction, characteristics, occurrence, shape and size. And here we have the classification as per the shape. This is very easy, and if you remember, you have done it in class 9th. Moving further, let's talk a little bit about flagellation. Flagella, just now I told you, is a locomotory structure like this. So depending on flagella and their number and side, which side is present, we have many categories. Look at the diagrams. We call a bacterial cell atrichous. A means without. When no flagella is there, we call it atrichous. Second, if only one flagellum is at one end, as you see here, it is called monotrichous. Mono means one. Then, if one flagellum is at each opposite end, one here and the other here, it is called amphitrichous. Then, cephalotrichous, when we mean to say many flagella at one end. This is cephalotrichous. Lophotrichous, when many flagella at both the ends. You can see some are here, some are over here in clusters. And then peritrichous, when many flagella are present all over the body like this. So we have these categories of various flagellar terms. Then, a very important thing I am going to start, children. There are some bacteria we call as gram positive, the other we call as gram negative. The very important thing I am introducing, why we call them, let us see. There is a name in the books as Dutch bacteriologist, and his name is Hans Christian Gram. He is the one who developed a method of staining called Gram staining. This we use his name only. 3 steps were used. Step 1, bacteria were stained with crystal violet. It's a chemical. Now some of the bacteria, they will be taking the steps that we'll stain, we'll talk later. So step 1 was staining bacteria with crystal violet. Step 2, stabilization with 0.5% iodine solution. Third, washing with acetone or alcohol. So only these 3 steps, using crystal violet, 0.5% iodine solution, and then washing with acetone or alcohol. Now after the third step, what happened? That a group of bacteria, they developed deep violet or purple color. And these group of bacteria which look like purple or deep violet, they were called gram positive because they took the stain. And they are usually the ones that are fewer in pathogenic forms. That is, they are less disease causing, right? Now what happened? The other group of bacteria which did not retain the stain, right? They were further stained with another chemical called safranin. I'm sure you have used this in lab, in our biology lab, and we know this. Or carbol-fuchsin. So this was another name, carbol-fuchsin or safranin. Now this group of bacteria, the colorless one, finally became red. That is, taking up safranin color, they became red, and this is why we call as gram negative. And they are more pathogenic. These are the ones that are more disease causing or pathogenic. So once again, gram positive are the ones that retained the deep violet color or purple color, and gram negative are the ones which did not become purple but became red. Alright, why red? Because they took up the safranin color. Alright, so there are a number of differences between them. I'll give you the difference just now, and that you have in your table to be written. It's mentioned here. I'll give it to you. The gram positive bacteria and the gram negative bacteria. Gram positive, just now you saw that they retain the gram stain, that is a deep violet. These do not retain the gram stain, but they do not the gram stain on washing with organic solvents like acetone or absolute alcohol. But later they take the stain of red when they are used with safranin. Alright. Then the wall is single layered. Here is 2 layered or double layered. Cell wall is 20 Newton Nm to 18 Nm, right? Whereas 7.5 Nm to 12 Nm, and this is thinner. Then they lack the fimbriae or pili, and here they are present. They actually act during sexual reproduction. We'll talk later in our lesson. Mesosomes are present. Now what are mesosomes, children? They are invaginations or bending up of the cell membrane. You can see this, a mesosome. If this is a bacterial cell, cell wall is there, but the cell membrane bends and forms depressions called mesosomes, right? So gram positive, they have the mesosomes present by invagination or depression of cell membrane, but here they are absent. Then cell wall, in positive, they contain traces of lipids, and here to a good amount, some almost 20%. They are pathogenic forms, but in fewer in their disposition, but here there are many, right? And they cause a variety of diseases. So for example, let's see, Bacillus, Clostridium, Streptomyces and Streptococcus. They are all gram positive. Then Vibrio, Salmonella, Rhizobium and Escherichia, they are gram negative. Alright, so here we have the differences, and I have written here, important children, please learn these differences, can be expected this year because it is important. Moving further, children, after this staining of bacteria, let us talk about the structure of bacterial cell. Now we will talk in detail about the structural composition. Then first look at this diagram, children. Over here, this is the bacterial cell. What is the outermost, children? It is a protective layer called capsule, right? or a mucilage deposit outside the cell wall. What you can see here is a cell wall. This is made up of peptidoglycans, right? Then we have the plasma membrane or the cell membrane. There is cytoplasm inside. The nuclear material is scattered or the nucleoid. Then there's an extra chromosomal hereditary material called plasmid. Like this is having the hereditary material, fine. But outside this is another body called plasmid. And this is extra chromosomal hereditary material. We'll talk just now, right? So let us begin. First, let us talk about cell wall. This outer cell wall, it gives shape and protection to the bacterial cell. And it is made up of peptidoglycans. What are peptidoglycans? They are polysaccharides which are cross-linked with short-chain amino acids. That means peptidoglycans means a mixture of polysaccharides and amino acids. Then cell membrane or the plasma membrane is the next one. The most protective layer outside cell wall is capsule or the mucilage capsule, and this is outside cell wall made of polysaccharides, and this is purely protective in function. Alright. Now, the plasma membrane is modified to form mesosomes. Just now I showed you here. These are mesosomes or chondrioids. Then these are formed by invagination of cell membrane in many bacteria. Just now I showed you, so that's page 2.10. This is called as a mesosome. Then at times the plasma membrane can also be modified to form desmosomes. What are desmosomes? The plasma membrane sinks deep into the cytoplasm to form multi-layered structures called desmosomes. So if it is only invagination, it's a mesosome. But imagine if this completely sinks inside, then many layered structure is present, which is called as desmosome. Coming to cytoplasm, it has fats, glycogen, proteins, 70S type of ribosomes, I told you 50 plus 30 subunit, and photosynthetic pigments like bacteriochlorophyll. Not the normal chlorophyll, but yes, the bacteriochlorophyll. Alright, then moving further to nucleoid or prochromosome or genophore or incipient nucleus, that means not properly formed. Alright, the nuclear membrane is absent. One molecule of circular DNA duplex is there, which is supercoiled with the help of RNA and some non-histone proteins. So that forms the composition of nucleoid. Plasmids, I have already shown you here. This is the extra chromosomal hereditary material, right? And this is very important tool in biotechnology, due to which we have many and important things in our medical science today, right? Then plasmids, they contain any of these four things. Fertility factor, which we call as F factor. This promotes conjugation, that is a sexual reproduction, right? Those bacterial cells which have this factor, we call it F plus or donors or males. Those bacterial cells which do not have this factor, we call F minus or recipients or females. So that's a role to play during sexual reproduction by conjugation. A bridge type structure is formed.